workers, illegal workers in New York at home. And after doing that project, sort of working with strangers who became known to him and working in their intimate environments, he prepared himself to go into the subject matter of his own family, which took him back, you know, on trips to the Dominican Republic, and then they were in the Bronx and in Florida, and basically began what has continued to this day. And it is this remarkable, extensive portrait of one large Dominican family, talking about the Dominican diaspora in New York, but also the culture in the Dominican Republic that he's still very connected to. And by concentrating on that one family, he's talking about the whole culture in general. And it's become a really significant document. This still has not been published as a book. He's had one major exhibition of this work in Switzerland, at the Photo Museum outside of Zurich in Switzerland. And he's been in various group exhibitions in the Dominican Republic and New York area, but he's not represented by a gallery. His work is not in the art market. It's been included in extensive museum shows at El Museo del Barrio in New York. This, by the way, is a picture of the cousin sleeping on the couch, who was sharing that shift. After doing this year at ICP, he finished his undergraduate degree at St. John's. They were immediately interested in his coming back to teach there, but he needed to get a master's degree. And he chose to get it at a state university in New Jersey that has a very good art school, Rutgers, which is fairly inexpensive. You know, maybe it's $6,000 or $8,000 a year, and when you're in the graduate program, you're also allowed to teach so that you can make some money there to cover the costs. And I was teaching there for 3 years, so he came there and he had me as a teacher both at ICP for that year, at the very beginning of this, and then I had the opportunity to see it develop and to see how he would present it. And then as soon as he got that degree, he was immediately offered this position at the school that he had been to as an undergraduate. So now he's a tenured full-time teacher at St. John's University, which is in the New York area. It's very rare because most of the photo programs are in art schools that have only adjunct professors with no tenure, no benefits, no full-time anything. So he really has this rare and lucky position to be in. And he's in charge, he works with their gallery programs. He's working on a show for next year on Latin American photography. He spent a few years in Haiti doing different projects. He married, his wife was working for the Dominican Embassy in Haiti. And then they moved to New York, and now she's in New York with him. So all of these pictures that I was just showing you were done in 35mm, all black and white. In graduate school, he started using medium format and also working in color. But I'm not going to show you all of those. But you can go to his website and you can see all of that work. So I'm giving you different examples to talk about like how people strategized with that education, where it led, and what their positions are today, and what the basis of their income and support is. I think that ICP, with its international focus, must have given him some idea about his native country and the importance of owning his nationality and heritage, and creating this project that expressed something definitive about that. At the time that he was at ICP, the biggest minority was Swedish, which was interesting because Sweden would give its students money to come to ICP. And so a lot of them came in those years. When ICP moved in 2001, the tuition doubled, and now it's almost tripled from those years, so that it's far fewer Scandinavians come, some do, but it's still highly international. But since I remember the people that were in his class, he was friends with Germans and Italians and French and Swedish and Japanese and Brazilian, and that kind of contact, I think, was like, had to have had a big impact on him. So it's much less of some kind of American influence. Of course, being in New York, there are exhibitions all the time, and those are very international, so it's a great place to study. But again, I think the impact was international. When he was in graduate school, he was in a school that was almost totally American, with very few foreign students, but it was an interdisciplinary program with very few photographers. So he was taking classes with painters, sculptors, installation artists, video artists, and that was then another kind of broadening of his education and gave him a kind of sophistication about contemporary art and knowing how to place, his work, how to present his work in that kind of non-photo context. Although, something I would say has happened with him that happens to people who find security in academia, which is that they become very busy teaching. And academia offers a secure and safe place to be financially, and then there's less incentive to have a career in the art market. And I think, he made various attempts for a few years to get inside it, but it's very competitive in New York, and I'm very disappointed that, a door hasn't opened for him yet. And I think that it's like that security in academia in a way is very comfortable for him, and maybe not creating that impetus into that scene. So the next photographer I want to talk about is someone that a lot of you already probably know. I know that she was here presenting her book project. So some of this work will be familiar to you, but maybe I can contextualize her development in a way that maybe she didn't do in terms of her education. She was in a class that was just a few years after Alex, and also very international. Interestingly enough, of all the years that I've been there, it was the class that was most talked about as having this incredible array of beautiful women. And Yvonne, if you've seen her, or her through her sister, her twin, is a very attractive woman. The women that year who were from France and Sweden were like stunning. And I was just thinking about that in terms of that vintage, whatever it was, 1997 or 1998. I was thinking about that in terms of her, right after having that experience in this kind of environment of all of these kind of stylish, sophisticated women, about then her decision going back to Tijuana to create this body of work on all the women that she had gone to school with growing up in Tijuana, who were now married with children and husbands and thriving in this new bourgeoisie of Tijuana that Yvonne herself was choosing not to participate in. She was based in New York, going to Mexico a lot, being an independent single woman, with serial boyfriends, very much not, this femme fatale kind of, very much not a settled married woman with children, conditioning those children to follow in her footsteps. I think New York it was really important for Yvonne to leave Tijuana and not go to Mexico City, but to come to New York to occupy a place that was different from that was occupied by her very successful music star sister. I'm sure you know, but just to like clarify that, you know, her twin sister Julieta Venegas is like big pop star. And Yvonne, looking just like her, has to deal with celebrity while not being one. She has to deal with being mistaken constantly for her sister, or people don't even care if she's not her sister. She's still a Venegas, and she looks just like the star. So whenever she goes into public space, she has to deal with fans. And this is the whole legacy of this sister that, you know, how can you compete with that, right? And I think it was really important for her to find her own identity, to come to be very far away from Mexico, where people don't, you know, the people in that school and Americans in general don't know Julieta and her music. And, you know, and she had a good place to learn and develop without having to deal with that kind of mirror reflection of success in music. The earlier pictures that I remember, a lot of, she was photographing musicians and, you know, supporting herself occasionally, doing pictures of bands and things like that. She had, there was a very successful editorial photographer, a woman in New York, who she assisted. So she also got a lot of experience doing assignment work and working under that pressure for somebody who was very professional and knew how to handle it. So when she started this series in Tijuana, she had a very professional skill set. And she was used to doing work on assignment so that she knew how to negotiate and navigate complicated social situations and get a result. But another person that she needed to get some distance from, I'm sure, was her father, who's in this picture, because he was the studio photographer of Tijuana since the early 70s. He's a little bit older than me, and he is still working there as a wedding photographer, as an events photographer, as a, you know, portrait photographer. And she is very much known in Tijuana as, you know, his child. So for her also to pick up photography, you know, she needed to discover her identity, I think, away from there. And when she came back, she decided to do this series, which she calls The Most Beautiful Brides of Baja California. And she worked on that for quite a few years. Also, she made an interesting decision to get an MFA. Living there, or living in San Ysidro, just on the American side, while she went to University of California, San Diego, to get her MFA. But she needed a few credits as an undergraduate to be able to get their MFA, so she actually enrolled in their BFA program. And they were very sympathetic and rushed her through and helped her, you know, get credit for the experiences she'd had in her ICP work, so that she got that quickly, and then she did her MFA there. And that is another really significant influence, I think, on her, is being in school in San Diego from Tijuana, because, as you probably know, Tijuana has a really sophisticated art scene, and it's very connected to UC San Diego. A lot of people in Tijuana have gotten their MFAs there, and a lot of them go back there and teach. So there's a constant flow between UCSD and the art scene in Tijuana. And then, of course, there's the art scene of Los Angeles. Last year,